Right. So for us, actually, it is more about the evolution of the brand, right? Because over the years, I think Mars has built a very strong product credibility, right? And that is obviously through innovation, or maybe through quality, or through accessibility, right? But now I think as the evolution of marketing is also happening, right? The next step is to build emotional relevance, right? We wanted consumers to connect with what Mars stands for, right? Not just with what Mars sells. So living the Mars life is our way of celebrating confidence through relatable life moments, rather than just portraying a very idealized version of beauty, right? And that was actually the biggest insight also, right? When we were thinking about launching this campaign, right? The insight was that confidence isn't static, right? It evolves. And it is more in terms of how it is more in terms of the life of a female, of a woman, right? For a college student, maybe it means something else. For a young professional, maybe it means something else. And someone who's navigating marriage, or newly married, it means something else, right? But for every one of them, makeup is something which actually makes them feel happy, or maybe it's a way by which they can feel more confident, or maybe they can feel more expressive, right? So that's why during this campaign, also the first leg of it talks about these three life scenarios of a woman, right? A college student, a young professional, and and a married woman, and how makeup is actually helping them to express themselves, to be very unapologetic about how they behave, because every time everybody is judged, right? And this is how we try to tell them, no, makeup actually helps them to be themselves, or maybe to express themselves. I think obviously creators is a very integral part of what we do, right? And we're really thankful for creators also in terms of being with us, because creators have now become a very trusted, I would say, storytellers and educators, right? Consumers often discover and evaluate products through creators before making any decision of purchase, right? And for us also, the objective is very simple, right? It's not simply to work with creators who have the biggest reach, right? But it's also about finding the right voices, right? The voices that generally align with the brand, right? And can communicate authentically, right? So that's how we also choose our creators. There were days when every brand used to rush or run for creators who had the biggest following, or maybe who had the biggest names in the industry, right? But now the trend is changing. It's more about small creators. It's more about authentic creators who can tell your story, and at the same time they are genuinely trusted by their audience, right? Because in this category, especially beauty, there's so much clutter in the market, right? And whenever any brand goes with paid ads with any big influencers, right? Users have become so much they've seen so much content, right? That they can easily figure it out whether it's a paid ad, or maybe the creator really wants to recommend this, right? That's why it's very important for us as a brand also to be able to find genuinely good creators who align with a brand philosophy, and at the same time their audience is also such that they are authentically being able to connect with their audience. First dimension would be awareness. I'm sure that's the biggest one. Did we actually improve brand visibility and reach to the right audience? Because that is most important to me. For a campaign of this sorts, right? It is equally important so that more and more people can actually see this campaign, and then being able to get judged, right? So awareness is obviously number one. Second, I would say is engagement quality, and not only engagement. That's why specifically I'm saying engagement quality. To look beyond views, right? To look more insightful data in terms of what was the watch time, what was the shares, what was the saves, comments, overall what is the sentiment, right? And also equally important to understand what is the quality of conversation that this campaign is generating, right? I think there you will actually understand the consumer and how they are perceiving this campaign. So that is also something that I'm eagerly doing currently as well. Third is obviously brand impact, which is most important. So we track branded search. We track sentiments, positive sentiment, negative sentiment, share of voice, and also whether consumers are beginning to associate with Mars, right? With the values that we're trying to build in around confidence, around self-expression, and also equally if this campaign has been able to resonate with all of the audience that we wanted to, right? So that will be third, and finally, obviously, business outcome, right? Is this business actually, is this campaign actually helping us to drive any outcome in terms of website traffic or maybe more interest on retail, product discovery, etc. So these are the most important four dimensions that I think I'm and we as a brand is evaluating this campaign. Marketing mix for the campaign is also very vast. Obviously, it's a 360-degree mix, right? But for us, I think media planning, we started media planning for this also with a consumer behavior, not channels, right? Because I just feel that today's beauty consumer doesn't follow a linear journey. She might discover a campaign on Instagram, right? Watch a creator review on YouTube, or and then maybe see the product in retail store, and let's say finally make a purchase on any com or quick com platform, right? So our media mix is also designed to support the entire journey where a female can go after watching this video, right? Digital naturally plays a very significant role, right? Because that's where beauty discovery happens today. But we also believe that digital doesn't happen in isolation. So we combine digital platforms with creator collaborations, PR, retail visibility, and also commerce touch points to actually create a very, I would say, consistent brand experience. The objective isn't simply to maximize reach, but at the same time, it's also to ensure that consumer experience the same brand story wherever they interact with Mars as a brand, right? So that's how our media mix is also divided into. In percentage, if I want to ask you, right, obviously, so major part goes into performance marketing, right? So that will be around 30%. Influencer collaborations will also come in 30%, right? 15% goes into offline, 15-20%, right? Again, 15-20% goes into e-commerce, and the remaining one goes in terms of PR, etc., etc. One of the biggest changes in marketing is that obviously technology has helped you, right? It has helped you to democratize access. There are self-serving platforms which has given brands much more control, and we are also equally using them in terms of overall planning, optimization, and also measurement. Uh, and that has actually helped us to test faster, right? To understand consumer behavior faster in real time, and actually make very informed and data-driven decisions much more efficiently than it was way before, right? And Mars is also following the same path, right? We leverage these platforms to optimize our campaigns across different stages of consumer journey, right? From awareness to conversion. And I also feel the biggest advantage that these tools give is agility, right? I can experiment much more faster. I can learn much more faster, and during that journey I can refine our communication much faster, or maybe reach out to my audience much faster. That was way before, right? Where there was a big setback when we used to do traditional marketing, right? Also for AI, I just feel that it is becoming more and more as an enabler across marketing data every day, because it helps us to identify emerging trends, again analyze consumer behavior, conversations, optimize media, right? And the main thing which is very important in terms of actually doing more creative experimentations, right? It actually helps you to bring more speed, right? So that it allows our team and me myself also, right? I'm an ardent AI user. It actually helps me also to focus more on strategy and creativity rather than just automating repetitive tasks, or keeping more brains into the strategy, because you know that eventually if your basics is right, and you know that how to use AI to your advantage, right? The layer of execution actually becomes easier, right? But having said that, I feel that we don't see technology as a substitute for human thinking, right? I strongly believe that great brands are still built on consumer insight, and that's how it'll always happen. It's paired with creativity and trust, and AI just help us to execute better, but it doesn't replace the need to deeply understand consumers. So experiential is very important, especially for our category, right? And I strongly feel that experiential marketing will actually become increasingly important for any beauty brand, right? Because beauty is inherently very experiential, right? It's a very experiential category because consumer just don't want to see a product; they actually want to touch it, try it, experience the texture, right? Understand the shade, or maybe and feel, I would say, feel more confident before making a purchase. That's why experiential is very important. At the same time, I also feel that experiential has evolved with time. It's no longer just about putting up a booth in a mall or maybe just doing a normal cab activity, right? The best experiences today are very immersive, right? They're very shareable and they're very relatable, right? Paired with, I would say, integrated with digital, because otherwise you will not have that reach, you will not have that buzz around, right? So consumers should be able to experience the brand physically while also wanting, I would say, to capture and share that experience online. And that's how Mars is also doing it. Our objective is to create experiences that are true to the brand and generally valuable for a consumer. So I want to do experiences which I feel will be very valuable to my consumer. That's why the cap thing also happened, right? Because it's a very day to day problem where we see that a lot of people, especially women, travel in cabs, and they kind of do their touch up or their makeup in cabs, right? So it just made natural sense for us to put up mirrors there so that people can actually use it, and it actually helps them. And that's what we did, right? It was a very interesting insight that we had, right? Yeah, so whether it's product discovery, whether it's makeup education, or any creator-led experience, right? The idea is to make every interaction very immersible, very memorable, rather than just transactional. Because slowly, when you start doing this regularly and consistently, right, you will see that you are able to win the trust of your consumer, right? And that somehow helps to establish your brand, right? To have more brand value in the long run, right? To create that brand equity, you should stay connected with your audience, and in the long run, you will see that it actually helps you, right? Because ultimately now experiential marketing is not only about events. I just feel that it's more about creating moments that actually deepens the consumer relationship with the brand, and that's what we are also doing. Yes, that's actually a very good question. So beauty as a category, it's becoming incredibly competitive today, right? We see a lot of brands coming every other day. You see a new brand, right? But I see this as a positive sign, right? Because I just feel that it reflects how dynamic the industry has become, right? Earlier there were very fewer players, right? There were no innovation. Mainly it was a very plain vanilla kind of industry. But cut to now, you see a lot of brands, you see a lot of innovation, right? You see a lot of different stuff which is coming, right? Which is a very positive sign for industry as a whole. But I believe differentiation today isn't just about launching any new product, right? It's also about building a brand with a very clear point of view, right? And that is what we have always followed. At Mars also, we believe our differentiation comes from three areas mainly, right? First is obviously product innovation. We continuously try to bring something new on the table, right? Focus on delivering high performance products that are very relevant for Indian consumer, right? That's always been our focus. Second, I would say accessibility, which is also very important. We have always believed in this fact that premium quality beauty products should be accessible to a wider audience. That's why you see that at the price point that we are offering products for, right? It's incredibly good quality. You won't get that in market with lot of other brands, right? And third, which is becoming increasingly important, is building emotional relevance, right? To be able to do meaningful storytelling, to be able to win trust over your consumer by being a very transparent brand, right? To be a very communicative, responsive brand, to understand that how, why consumer is doing this or why they are choosing you. Even if there are any issues with your product or maybe brand, be very responsive, be very cognizant of the fact and acknowledge that. And we always do that, right? We listen to our consumer, and if things do well, obviously we listen. If it doesn't do well, still we listen to them and then come back with all the feedback that we have. And slowly that builds a very meaningful connection with your audience, and people also start liking you, and start connecting with you, and you build a very organic community of like-minded people, and somehow that actually helps your brand, right? And obviously then campaigns like this will actually is actually an example of that approach that I'm talking about, right? Because if I was there, right, I would have done and maybe just talk about makeup, right, or maybe sell my product, right? but here I'm not talking about my product. I'm just talking about confidence. I'm talking about individuality, right? And how the different stages of life where beauty becomes very really important in the form of self-expression, right? And that's how you move beyond product communication and build a more long-term brand preference.